Hello everybody, today we're going to talk about how lighting affects your color selection in your rooms. The big thing to think about is you want colors that are going to work well no matter what your lighting will be. Natural lighting, artificial lighting. So when you choose those colors, look at the color in the room at various times of the day. How does it look at night with artificial light? How does it look during the day with the natural light that comes into the room? And you should make those selections in the actual room under the conditions that are going to be used. Because if you select the color in the paint store with a different lighting, it's going to look one way. In your room with very different lighting, it's going to look another. Sometimes in the store they will have areas where you can kind of simulate some of the different lighting effects, but the best way is to really make sure that it looks good in your room. Indoor lighting, most homes have a different combinations of lighting. So looking at how those types of lighting affect the room really is going to help to make your final decisions on what colors to pick. Natural lighting is going to be in every home during the day. At night, you're looking more at your artificial light, the incandescents or the fluorescent lights. In general, incandescent lighting can bring a dullness to a room, depending on the color you choose, but it also will make a lot of colors feel warmer. So again, another reason why it's good to look at those colors in your actual house, in the lighting conditions that will be there. Fluorescent lighting can distort some colors. It can also make them appear cooler. Halogen lights resemble natural light, tend to make colors look more vivid. So a very vivid, bold color might look even more bold in that type of lighting. LED lights, you can buy different types of warmer or cooler lights. Sometimes you can get smart light LEDs which change color, and you could even control it from your smartphone to change the color of the room, of the lighting in the room, depending on what your needs are during that day. And those LED lights have a lot of nice features too, with timers or using even just very different colors in the room. Natural lighting, the subdued light of a northern exposure can make colors feel cooler. So if your window faces the north, again, the color may be a little bit cooler than what you see on the paint chips in the store. A southern exposure with the window facing south is going to get the most sunlight, so it tends to make the colors seem brighter and warmer during the daylight. East-facing rooms, light is kind of a warm yellow before noon, so in the morning it would be more of a yellow to that color, whereas as the day goes later, more of a bluish tone will show up. West-facing rooms, evening is going to have a very beautiful, very warm light that's coming in the windows, and so that's definitely something to check with those paint colors to see how it affects that and how it warms up those colors. There's not a lot of morning light, so that can produce shadows and make the colors look duller. There are other factors that can change the quality of the light coming in the room, so it's definitely something to look at to see or think about what's not only what side the window's facing, but also is there anything outside that could change the quality of that light. So it could be like reflections off of brighter objects that are outside. If there's something that metal or something that's reflecting, and it's going to shine more light into that window. It could be overhangs of the window. It could shade it more so you don't get quite as much light. Trees outside, again, more shade, and you may not get as much light from that window. Again, examine all lighting factors and think about that as you look at your color sample. Sometimes the small color samples are hard to tell, but sometimes you can get a small container of paint and you could put it on a larger area in the room. So definitely make sure you check that out in the actual room it's going to be used. And look at the daylight different times to see if you still like it in the morning versus the afternoon versus the evening. And sometimes something like this can help, looking at the types of light you have and how that affects the color you're thinking. Incandescent lights are going to warm yellows or strengthen oranges or enrich reds. It might dull the blue or darken the green. And so this is in the book. It's a good chart to take a look at and take that into consideration of what kind of light do I have and what effect will it have on that color. As you're selecting colors from room to room, it should be more of a gradual transition. You don't want to have a very abrupt change from one space to another, because like this picture, you have a very open space, and if you had a very different color or a clashing color from one room to the next, it's going to look like it doesn't match or doesn't line up. It's going to be harder on the eyes. Color harmonies, we've talked about, so apply those to transition. So from room to room, how can you make the house seem to flow and match up together? Also, to use a color well, consider that as you're applying it to larger areas, it's going to make that color gain more intensity. So the more wall space you have, the more intense that color may get. Using contrasting colors can help draw attention. So as you're picking the different colors of the different parts of the room, that you can use contrast to help draw attention to a special piece of furniture or an artwork. One dominated color tends to be easier on the eyes. And thinking back to that 60-30-10 ratio, if your wall color is going to be your dominating color in the room, and that should be an easier color for your eyes to focus on. Low intensity colors are good for large areas because they're still going to gain some intensity, but they're not going to be quite so intense once they cover that large area of the wall space. Also think about the size of the room. What do you want? If it's a very, very large room, maybe you want it to feel a little more cozy and bring it in. So colors that are a little more advancing might be good in a large room to make it feel a little more smaller and cozier. For a very small room, you want it to be larger. So maybe a receding color will help to make it feel a little more open and a little larger. If you have any questions, please let me know. Have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you guys soon.